Hello and welcome back to Auto Social UK. When you think of the Toyota Yaris, you think of compact, sensible, pretty uninspiring first-time car. In 2017, Toyota gave the Yaris a facelift, which gave it a sharper nose and some jazzier colours. It was on its way to standing out, but was still pretty uninspiring. But then in 2020, bought the fourth generation Toyota Yaris. Before I get into it, just a quick word about our sponsor. I know, I've got a sponsor, I'm going up in the world. Today's video is proudly sponsored by Finset Finance. Finset are a finance broker that provide finance for any asset you might be looking to purchase. Got a new car that you've got your eye on, or perhaps something else? Then why not get in touch with Finset to see what they can do for you? They work with a panel of lenders that are top in the game. Plus, something I believe in is that they are completely transparent and keep you updated throughout the whole process. Why don't you get in touch with Finset and see what they can do for you? I'll pop more information and a link in the description box. Let's get into it. It would seem that the Toyota Yaris has finally reached its destination. Wow, what a striking car. This is a real statement from Toyota and I think they've absolutely nailed it. With bright colour combinations, the large contrasting black grille and more aggressive feature, it's definitely one to stand out. Unlike rivals such as the Volkswagen Polo and the Vauxhall Corsa, the Toyota Yaris has stayed relatively the same size throughout the years. In fact, this fourth generation Yaris is actually shorter and slightly lower than before, but it is a little bit bigger around the edges. But don't we all get like that with age? Although Toyota say that this car might be smaller, it's on a new chassis, and that chassis boasts more interior space, meaning it's competitive with its rivals. The Toyota Yaris is now only available in a 5-door, which is pretty normal for a car in this segment. There's also two different chassis setups, a sport and a normal, and two different wheel size options. On the two lower spec models you get 16-inch alloy wheels, and then on the two higher specs and also this launch edition you get 17-inch alloy wheels. The two-tone colour effect definitely helps to make the Yaris look a lot more sporty. It's also now got a more aggressive and angular rear end. You'll be pleased to know that they haven't faked it with any false exhausts, none of that here, but they are faking it elsewhere. It might look like there's a light bar that runs along the back of the Yaris. It's actually just a sticker. Inside the Yaris is by no means not a nice place to be. I just don't particularly feel overwhelmed. For such a jazzy outside, it's got such a kind of plain inside. In fact, because this is the launch model, it does have these really nice kind of ribbed leather seats with the contrasting red stitching, and it also does have a red centre console as well. But in the other models, you don't really get any of that, especially on the lower spec, and it's left feeling a little bit plain. But despite the fact that I've just called it plain, everything is really nice quality. So you've got a very nice leather wrapped multifunctional steering wheel. You've got some squidgy kind of nice materials all over the dash. There isn't too much hard plastic. You've only got this bit of hard plastic in the middle, but it's not in your face like a lot of cars in this segment. What I think Toyota done is they've actually made this appeal to a much wider audience. Cars have become a little bit too much in your face on the interior, whereas this is quite unoffensive. There are 5 different model variations, with this launch edition getting the best amount of kit. All of them get Apple CarPlay, auto lights and wipers, adaptive cruise control and reversing cameras. The design adds LED lights and some styling above the icon and takes a 7-inch screen to 8 inches. The Dynamic gets a JLB sound system, keyless entry and dual zone climate. Then the XL gets folding mirrors and blind spot monitoring. This limited launch edition on top of all of that gets a heads-up display and a 10-inch screen. Okay, let's talk about storage. And Toyota have said that they've added lots of little extra storage compartments that make living with the Yaris a lot easier. However, I'm not sure how I feel about these. So we've got a little bit of a space up here and we've got a little bit of space there. So let's just pop this. And let's just start with, I know that you guys are all as OCD as I am, and there's no way I'd want stuff on display like this. But let's pop my glasses case there and put my keys there. The only problem with this is, as soon as I slam on the brakes or accelerate hard, that's coming out. Coming round to the rear of the car, it's nothing to write home about. It's plenty big enough and I feel comfortable here. The black headlining does make you feel a tiny bit claustrophobic, and if you move to the middle seat, it is slightly raised, so I am almost bumping my head. But there is 5 seats, which is a positive for me, and if you ever have to carry 5 adults, then the Yaris will accommodate that. There is more space in the Polo and the Corsa, but the only problem I feel about that is this is a different type of car. The Polo and the Corsa have both grown to almost be hatchback sized, whereas this is still very much a Mini. So compare it to something like the Mini Cooper, and it's absolutely comparable. But put it up against the Polo and the Corsa, then it does feel slightly short. The only issue with that is that Yaris has priced itself to be competitive with those cars, so it's a shame it can't live up. Boot space is slightly down on the Ford Fiesta and significantly less than the Clio and the Polo. Better news is that all models get a 2-level boot floor as standard. This allows you to have the floor in its lowest position for maximum load space or raised to lessen the loading lip. So you've probably noticed that the majority of my car reviews recently have been some sort of electric or hybrid. And for most brands, it's groundbreaking and it's going to change them and it's so amazing. But actually, the Toyota Yaris has had a hybrid engine available since 2012. So they were massively above the curve. And the engine that's in this one, which is a 1.6 litre petrol with an electric motor, you can tell it's just been worked on upon the years and it really is at its best yet. Toyota claim that the 4th generation Yaris uses around 80% electric and 20% petrol, which is kind of difficult to get my head round. Essentially what it does is it switches off the engine and it runs just on the electric motor, and it's constantly, every time you're driving, charging up that motor and then reusing that electric. But I have found that a little bit hard to get used to. You can tell it's running on electric because it's very quiet, but 80% to me seems a lot. I've been keeping an eye on the miles per gallon. So when we were going through town, it was really high. It was around in its 80s, and now I've done a mixture of back roads, some 60s, some 20s, a bit of a mix, and we're actually on around 70 miles per gallon, which is still very, very good. The Yaris is actually only available in the hybrid model, which I find a little bit strange. There is a petrol to come, but they're not sure when it's going to be yet. I mean, don't get me wrong, the hybrid model is brilliant and it's far superior to the petrols, but it only comes with an automatic gearbox, which again, for me personally, I love an automatic gearbox, but I do feel like they are going to kind of alienate some people that want to stick to manual. The main reason it comes in the automatic only is because all of the technology it uses to make sure that you get a really high mile per gallon. Of course, a automatic gearbox is much better at predicting that over a manual box. That engine will produce 114 brake horsepower and will get from 0 to 62 in 9.7 seconds, which is pretty respectable. It's actually on par with the Volkswagen Polo automatic, which has a similar 115 brake. But because this car has the electric motor, it picks up speed a little bit quicker, and I can personally say that the automatic gearbox is much smoother. The steering is surprisingly weighted and reasonably precise. This car performs well down country lanes, around town, and even on the open road. Safety equipment is a real highlight on this car, especially on this top spec model. It includes active lane assist to avoid you drifting over the lanes, active collision braking to preempt accidents, and blind spot monitoring. So if you're a first time driver, I can imagine this is really going to put your parents' minds at ease. All of that safety equipment definitely is a bonus, But I can't help but feel that driving with the Toyota Yaris is a little bit like driving with your mother. It tells you when you do anything wrong. If you go over the lane, it will tell you. If you go a little bit too quick, it will tell you. And if you get a little bit too close to the car in front, it's going to tell you that as well. Now, all of these things can be adjusted. You can turn down the lane assist, and I do think you can turn off the front collision warning as well. The only thing you can't do is adjust the sensitivity of it. On other cars, you can kind of make it a little less sensitive, because I do really like the anti-collision warning. It's super helpful and it's actually got me out of trouble a couple of times. But perhaps in the Yaris it's a little bit too sensitive, so it would be nice if you could turn it down. The Yaris is going to be £140 tax a year, and it will fall in around the insurance group 8, which is similar to the Ford Fiesta and the Seat Ibiza. In recent years, Toyota have performed very well in reliability tests, often finishing in the top 10, and the previous Yaris also performed very well. The Yaris gets a 5-year, 100,000 mile warranty, which is much better than most of its rivals. I've actually enjoyed driving the Yaris, perhaps a lot more than I thought I would. It's just so easy. It's quiet, it's smooth, it picks up quickly, and it goes through those gears completely effortlessly. Okay, it's not the biggest in its class. If you want to be constantly carrying around 5 adults, then this isn't the car for you. But if you're doing a commute where it's just you, perhaps somebody else that you drive around with, and you want a cracking mile per gallon and an enjoyable drive, then the Toyota Yaris is really good. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you've liked it, then please go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. And why not subscribe to my YouTube channel to see more new car reviews from me. A huge shout out to Steven Eagell Toyota in Ipswich for lending me the Toyota Yaris for the day. Steven Eagell are the biggest Toyota dealerships in the UK, and they can get you the best possible deal on your next car, with finance plans on the Toyota Yaris starting from 0% finance and under £200 a month. Why not get in touch? I'll pop all the details in the description box. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye!